Hi everyone, I'm Pat Prokop, retired meteorologist and amateur astrophotographer. The weather is heading into an active state for us here in the southeast United States, and that could affect the entire eastern seaboard, but particularly the southeast United States next week with high winds and very heavy rains. Also, a total lunar eclipse will occur about the same time as the storm starts moving in. So let's get into the weather discussion now, followed by information about the nighttime sky and that lunar eclipse. The conditions from the temperature-wise, warm air in the center portion of the country into the eastern half of the country, eastern portion of the country, including southeastern Georgia, southern South Carolina. We're sitting at nearly 80 degrees now here in Savannah this afternoon. Look over in southern Texas, they're in the upper 80s, lower 90s perhaps. Cooler but not cold air up in the central and northern plains. Up in the mountains, a little bit chilly, but then again, this is November. But as we go into time, looking at the Saturday afternoon temperatures, here we go. Lower 80s in the, most of Georgia and South Carolina, into North Carolina and Virginia, and even up into the New York area, back eastward into Ohio. Again, cooler but not colder air out in the north central portion of the country, even mild air in the central and southern plains. Going ahead to Sunday, I want to look at Sunday because there's an event going on in New York City on Sunday. So let's take a look at the early afternoon temperatures of Sunday in New York City. It's going to be in the lower to middle 70s. That's where they have their New York City Marathon, where they run the 26 miles through all 5 boroughs of the city. And I would love to be able to run that, but I think my knees are not going to let that ever happen again. But look at Georgia and South Carolina. Again, we're in the 80s on Sunday. And then going into Monday and Tuesday, we're still in the 70s to 80s. So we're going to stay warm here. And it's really not cold across the middle portion of the country. Some colder air is trying to come down from northwest Canada, where we have some single-digit Fahrenheit temperatures now in southwestern Canada. Let's see if that goes further southward. No, not really. It just continues to stay mild across the middle portion of the country. As a matter of fact, we're going to stay extremely warm here. Let's take a quick peek at the climate forecast for the temperatures. And for next week, we're going to see temperatures way above, actually at the end of this week into early next week, temperatures way above normal across the center to the eastern half of the country, and then well below normal in southwestern Canada. Week 2, we're seeing the mild air and warm air continuing across the eastern portion of the country, that cold air surging, trying to move into the north central plains. And then into week 3, it warms back up. We cool off a little bit, but we stay mild above normal. So we're doing pretty good over here. Now, let's move ahead into the computer models. This is the global forecast system. I want to look at this because it shows the cloud forecast, and there are those big thunderstorms there. This is sunset on Friday. Then as we progress in time, you can see that system begins to weaken out, but the clouds begin to move into southeast Georgia and southern South Carolina, and we're watching this area over here in the tropics. That's going to be something to keep an eye on for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's going to be spreading in clouds across our area. For Tuesday, early in the morning, that is when there's going to be a total lunar eclipse. I'm going to have more about that coming up very shortly. But let's look at the tropical weather conditions. And right here, there is an area of disturbed weather developing in the tropical areas of the Bahamas, into the Bimini's, and off the southeast coast of Florida. And that's going to be affecting Georgia and South Carolina, perhaps the eastern portion of the eastern seaboard, early to middle portion of next week to late next week up in the northeast portion of the country. Now, the computer models, some are pushing it off to the east and some are bringing it right up to the coast. So let's take a look at that. Looking at the global forecast system, there it is, that area of disturbed weather over in the eastern Caribbean Sea, moving into the Bahamas. And as we progress in time, you can see this system is getting a little bit better organized, and almost a subtropical or non-tropical low-pressure system starts to develop over here in the Bahamas. And this is on sunset on Monday. And then going into the next day, on Wednesday mid-afternoon, it just meanders around somewhat into the northern Bahamas, but it looks like it's starting to try to take on tropical characteristics. By the way, the next name on the list is Nicole. And it brings a strong low pressure system or subtropical storm into southeastern portions of Florida. This is for sunset on Thursday, and then going into Friday, it brings in a lot of rain and wind across the southeast United States. Again, Florida looks like it's going to get hit pretty hard if this system is correct. Let's look at the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast, and it shows a different scenario here. It's a little bit faster. It shows the system here as a broad non-tropical low pressure system in the southern Florida, the Bahamas, into the northern Caribbean Sea. And this is for midday on Wednesday, and then going into early Thursday morning. Moderate to heavy rains expected into Georgia and South Carolina, so keeping an eye on that. And then it continues to spread rain northward up into the northeast portion of the country. Just look at one other model here, the Canadian Meteorological Center. It shows a different situation here, and it shows the storm ramping up somewhat, and then by again sunset on Wednesday, a strong subtropical low pressure system off the mid coast of Florida, Atlantic side, and then ramps up into southeastern Georgia, right up the eastern Georgia coast into South Carolina as a strong area of low pressure with gusty winds and heavy rains, and pushing off to the northeast portion of the country. Following that, it's pulling down some cold air, and I think that's a little bit overreaction there, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But with this, it might be a spoiler alert for our viewing of the eclipse of the moon. So what's up in the sky this week and next week? What's up in the sky currently? Well, there are several events forthcoming, but the clouds from that system in the Bahamas could interfere with the viewing. However, right now, two planets dominate the nighttime sky, Jupiter and Mars. You can't miss Jupiter, as it is high in the southern sky by midnight and is extremely bright. Through the telescope, you'll at times see the giant red spot, an ongoing hurricane-like system that is larger than two Earths set side by side. Secondly, the planet Mars. Mars is now rising before 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and is high in the east-northeast sky by 11 o'clock at night. And it's growing brighter and brighter each night. It is a ruddy red image right now, and it continues to brighten. Mars will be at opposition, that is, the Earth will be directly between the Sun and Mars on December 8th. Not November 8th, but December 8th. And it'll be rising at sunset then, and will be appearing extremely bright, ruddy red throughout the nighttime skies. There will be a total eclipse of the moon early Tuesday morning, November 8th. The event will begin at 4:09 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with the shadow of the Earth munching away at the full moon, reaching totality by 5:15 a.m. And it'll remain in that phase until 6:41 a.m. During totality, it'll appear as a dull burnt red, kind of like this image right here that I took from January of 2019. And the camera setting, though, when I took this picture, was set on very high to help capture that redness. Now, it won't appear this red if you look at it with your own eyes in the sky. However, the morning twilight will also begin to brighten the sky, beginning shortly before 6 a.m., and with the sun to rise in Savannah at 6:47 a.m. That's Eastern Standard Time now. If you're watching the video from the center to the western portion of the United States or further westward, you'll see the moon coming out of the eclipse, with the best view for the folks along the west coast and in Hawaii. This will be the last lunar eclipse for North America, by the way, until March 14th, 2025. There is an ongoing meteor shower in northern and southern Taurids. However, the moon is interfering with the viewing of the meteors, but this meteor shower is known for its fireballs, particularly large meteoroids that vaporize as they enter into the Earth's atmosphere and are quite bright. and they're slow moving. So while watching the moon and planets, you might see some of these bright shooting stars. The peak of the southern Taurids will be from November 5th to November 12th, right about now. There will be another meteor shower later this month, the Leonids, and they'll be peaking around November 17th and 18th, and there should be a little bit more meteors per hour as the moon will be out of the way, perhaps 15 meteors per hour. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. You can also find me on my main YouTube channel, Heavenly Backyard Astronomy, where I am currently working on my next projects, the Helix Nebula and the planets. Enjoy the nighttime sky and keep an eye on the weather with that storm brewing in the Bahamas. It could get rather windy and wet here in coastal Georgia and South Carolina Tuesday through Thursday. Until then, when outside, enjoy the nature around you and above you, and the heavenly skies at night, filled with their majestic wonders. See you later right here on YouTube.